How did Nixon's veto impact the War Powers Resolution? Imagine a time when the balance of power between the legislative and executive branches was being tested by the complexities of military conflicts. The question of who should control the decision to deploy armed forces was at the forefront of American political debate. This is the backdrop against which President Richard Nixon's veto of the War Powers Resolution played a significant role. The War Powers Resolution was enacted by Congress in 2073 to limit the president's ability to commit United States armed forces to hostilities without congressional approval. It was a response to the escalation of the Vietnam War and concerns that presidents had been engaging in military actions without proper legislative oversight. The resolution required the president to notify Congress within 48 hours of deploying troops and forbade armed forces from remaining engaged for more than 60 days without congressional authorization. President Nixon's veto of the War Powers Resolution was rooted in his belief that it infringed upon the constitutional powers granted to the executive branch. Nixon argued that the resolution was an unconstitutional restriction on the president's authority as commander-in-chief. He contended that the Constitution gave the president the power to conduct military operations and that Congress should not interfere with this executive prerogative. Nixon also expressed concern that the resolution could hinder the president's ability to respond swiftly to international crises. Despite Nixon's veto, Congress attempted to override it, but the veto was sustained, meaning the resolution did not become law in its original form. Nixon's veto signaled a significant assertion of executive authority, emphasizing the president's role in military decision-making. However, the resolution's passage and the veto debate highlighted the ongoing tension between the legislative and executive branches over war powers. In practice, Nixon's veto and the subsequent political debate underscored the limitations of the War Powers Resolution. Although it was designed to curb presidential military actions, the resolution was often ignored or circumvented by presidents, including Nixon himself. The veto reinforced the notion that the executive branch maintained substantial control over military decisions, and it set a precedent for future presidents to challenge congressional efforts to assert greater oversight. Ultimately, Nixon's veto of the War Powers Resolution impacted the effort to define clear boundaries between Congress and the presidency in matters of war. It demonstrated the president's commitment to maintaining authority over military engagements and influenced subsequent discussions and legislation regarding war powers in the United States.